Hey gang, having some thoughts today I wanted to share with you. I'm reading an article by a guy named Shai, Linn, a Christian hip hop guy that a friend of mine, Curtis, put me onto him years ago, and enjoy his music. It's fun, good solid theology and stuff. But this article, and I'll post it in the comments below. It'd be really good for you to read. Just as I process through this, I'm seeing some folks that, and I tend to be this way too sometimes. If it's not affecting me directly, then I tend to just kind of turn it off and not let it affect me. But I think as a follower of Jesus, when I look at the scriptures, if I see a brother or sister hurting or struggling, like I need to be able to empathize with that. I need to be able to feel that with them. I need to hurt with them and kind of help carry that burden with them. And at least try to relate to their stories so that I can understand how to engage, maybe how to try to help. But man, his story is really good, and would encourage you to read it. And he gives a lot of understanding kind of to his story and some things that he's dealing with through some of these racial things that we're hitting these days. But I want to read this last part to you just so you can kind of hear it and just to get it out there. But he has just shared some of his like insights and some of the things he's dealing with when things come up in his life as an African American man. And he says this, he says, the title is Grieving But With Hope. He says, but it's not the whole picture, talking about the story he just shared. Though I am deeply grieved, I am not without hope. Personally, I have little confidence in our government or policymakers to change the systemic factors that contributed to the George Floyd situation. But my hope isn't in the government, my hope is in the Lord. In a different context, the prophet Jeremiah said some things that resonate with me as I process this. He says in Lamentations 3:20, I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. He says, I love that the prophet doesn't minimize the pain or act like it isn't real. There are 3 whole chapters of bitterness and gall, and no trite cliches wrapped in theological terms. Jeremiah acknowledges how much it hurts, and as a result, his soul is downcast. Too often when people are hurting, we can play the role of Job's friends, saying things that may be theologically true while adding to our suffering friend's pain. I'm going to say that again. Too often when people are hurting, we can play the role of Job's friends, saying things that may be theologically true while adding to our suffering friend's pain. One of the most hurtful things we can do is to make mourners justify their pain. Jeremiah gives thoughtful meditation to the trauma he has experienced at the hand of the Lord. But then he does something remarkable in the next verse. He preaches to himself. And it says, yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore I will wait for him. Lamentations 3:21-24. Jeremiah makes a conscious decision to think about something that fuels his hope, God's character. He considers God's great love, God's compassion, and God's faithfulness. He reminds himself that the Lord is his portion. Jeremiah knows he and Israel deserve to be consumed because of their sin, but he also knows that the God who disciplines is the God who saves. Verse 26. And so he says this as he closes. He says, so brothers and sisters, in a nutshell, I'm so thankful for Jesus. I deserve to be consumed, but I'm not, because of God's compassion. That's what the cross and resurrection are all about. My pain and trauma are real, but my salvation, in a sense, is even more real because my pain and trauma are temporary. My salvation is eternal. That's why I choose to focus on what I do in my music. It's the glory of God, the supremacy of Jesus Christ, the centrality of the cross, and biblical theology that put my experiences as a black man in America in its proper perspective. I hope I'm not giving in to skepticism or pessimism, but I firmly believe that unless the systemic problems with policing and criminal justice systems are addressed, we're going to continue to see these kinds of things for years to come. My fear is that the attention garnered by the protests will eventually die down, as it always does, and then my white friends will go right back to life as usual. And this is the part that really grabbed me. But I don't have that luxury. For me, life as usual means recognizing some people perceive me as a threat based solely on the color of my skin. For me, life as usual means preparing my sons for the coming time when they're no longer perceived as cute little boys, but teenage thugs. Long after George Floyd disappears from the headlines, I will still be a black man in America. And you know what? I thank God for that. He knew exactly what he was doing when he made me the way he did. Despite the real and exhausting challenges that come with my outward packaging, I know that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and I wouldn't want to be anything other than what I am, a follower of Jesus Christ who has been saved by grace and redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, who also has brown skin and dreadlocks and does hip-hop. And God has chosen in his great mercy to leverage it all for his glory. Praise be to him. I thought this was a great testimony of how somebody is responding. They've allowed the pain in their life to be used by God to impact another. It's impacted me. I pray that as we engage that it impacts you. I pray that we see each other differently. I pray that for my black and brown brothers and sisters that you do rely on and just sit in and own your identity in Christ. That you are worthy. I do love you. I love you. You are worthy. You are not deserving. Other than the sin that we have in our life, you're no more deserving of the treatment that you receive than any of us. We're all sinners condemned to hell, but for the grace of God and the actions of Jesus to die for us and to be raised again, can we have unity with one another. So that's my prayer as we process through this. Let's keep pressing into the moment. Let's keep reaching out to one another. Let's keep engaging in relationship. And let's keep helping each other just pursue Jesus and become more like him in this moment. Hope you have a good rest of your day.